Good day, people. This is Kosaki again. I am literally coming back to you about the topic of the 21 commonalities. That is Kosaki versus with Mark Twain. Maybe other people they are asking themselves, who is Mark Twain? What did Mark Twain do? In order to understand, like, what's the reason why did I have to, choose, the relevance of perhaps the 21 traits between myself and Mark Twain. Yeah, Mark Twain is actually, the Kosakis. These are one of our main projects, it's 21 commonality traits between Mark Twain and Kosaki. Mark Twain's name was Samuel Clemens, and I'm saying that the 21 commonalities between myself and Mark Twain, it's somebody that I've actually read a lot about him, and is one of the old time intellectuals that actually started small to actually become the best person of his character and the best person of his time in what he did. I'm actually saying that there are these 21 commonalities, traits that is between myself and him. Now the question is, what could that be? What is it that is common between myself and Samuel Clemens? Well, I'm going to actually share that, but I'm going to actually take this presentation as if I am speaking to someone, because I don't think that if I want to share these commonalities, like I have to be, serious, or perhaps I have to actually project myself as a person that is reading. Yes, of course, some of the things that I present, I always write them so that I can read them, so that people can understand. It's much better to write something and read from, like when you're trying to actually track yourself if you're still on track. You don't talk, because when you talk out of your mind, you may, end up like away from the point. And the point at this present moment is the 21 commonality traits between myself and Mark Twain. So you will have a gist of understanding me as a person, or perhaps as a life coach or as a coach, and we also have a better understanding as how do I apply my mind on things, and if I've given time to think about something, and then how do I actually project myself with those thoughts that as I'm delivering them to the perhaps topic that I'll be talking about, and all of that. So how do I do them? And then compared to Mark Twain, what was the kind of person that he is? First of all, Mark Twain was very religious. He was a Christian, and as he was a Christian, he was a very intelligent person who actually would write. He wrote many books, he published many books, and then he wrote books, and he not only wrote books, he wrote even to the publishers of his books. When he was not happy about something, he will write something to them and tell them that you have actually published the book, but there are things that you didn't incorporate in my book, and I feel that that was a bit of showing the disrespect to my work as a person. At least you should have maybe during your modification in publishing my book, at least you should have consulted me as a person, that you find out what would I have introduced, maybe in a certain text that you've decided to remove and all of that. So that was Mark Twain. He was a very outspoken person. He was not scared of anything. He was a person that was a person of his time. He would say, he would do anything in terms of making sure that his ideas have been actually shared. You know, his ideas have been actually delivered. You know, in a sense that he would make sure that you understand his feelings. He understand his position just by reading his books. You know, I got so inspired in Mark Twain's books, as time went by. Yes, I read too many writers like the likes of John Bunyan and all of that, but I like him. And when I read him, I felt that, it's like I'm reading myself because there are those commonalities between myself and him. And I felt that, someday when I'm actually someone that perhaps can live in my life, I would perhaps just write a book or perhaps make a video about myself and attach it to my connections and talk about it, and all of that. So this is Mark Twain. He has written so many books, like I said, and as I'm sitting now, I'm looking on everything that I actually picked up from his writings and all of that. But as I've mentioned that, one of his traits, he was a writer, he was an outspoken person, and he would actually you will tell a stone as a stone. You won't actually hide around it. You will tell whatever that he wants to tell. If he feels to talk about something, he will talk about it. You won't fear about that. So that is what I love. That is what I love about him. And when Mark Twain decided to actually critique, perhaps a certain writer on a certain point, you won't hide about, you won't even consult that writer. You will tell him, and and after he's done that, he will make sure that he sit down with the person and have a cup of coffee and talk about, this point of critique. And I remember when he was actually talking with one of the writers of his time, I won't mention his name, and then the writer asked him, why didn't you call me and critique me aside so that I can improve my workings and all of that? In that point that we were constructively criticizing me and all of that, he said, no, I'm not trying, so I don't listen to anyone. I just do what I love. I just decide if I want to do this, then it is something that needed to be done. So I felt that if I consult you, it's going to actually cost me a lot of time, it's going to make me to be formal and all of that. So I haven't needed to do that. So I just needed to do what I wanted to do and just throw what I wanted to throw and all of that. So that is what I love about the man. He was not fearful of anything. He would just talk about what he wants to talk about and be the person that he wants to be and all of that. And there's also another part that I laughed when I read about Mark Twain, one of his writings, and then especially to that book that he wrote, The Reverend Mark Twain. When you read that book, you laugh a lot because the guy talks about everything that he thinks about, and that is when I realized that, at some point there is God. And God gives you the freedom to talk about anything, especially if you are actually respecting God's principles and all of that. So Mark Twain was that man. And there's also another part in that book where he spoke his Peter, where he states that the chapter states that Mark Twain in eruption. You must read that chapter. This chapter, is one of the best chapters that I love to read, especially when I read that chapter, and then I just look and listen to the writings and to the content, that the way he wrote about. He didn't use aggressive approach. He didn't use aggressive. He didn't use a soft approach. He just used a sort of cumbersome way of actually speaking his words, speaking his ways, speaking, his proper ways of expressing himself, which is a lovely. He's quite a, he's very mouthful when you listen to that, when you read that book. I mean, I love that. I love that kind of a writer when you read the content, and you see the content, it drives you, it connects you to where you are, it takes you to where the writer is. You can even picture the position of the writer and say, wow, this is the writer, this is the position of the writer, these are the emotions that the writer was when he felt the moment. Because when he talks about those things, then it makes you to be able to zoom into the moment. So that's what I love about him. One of the things that I love about him is that he would even write whatever that he writes, and he would even put the laughing, he would even put those ha ha ha, like sort of like a jargon in his writings. Those are things that actually sometimes make you feel that, oh, okay, I mean, when you write your own book, I mean, you've got a choice to spice it up and make it your way and all of that, And there's also another part where you write that the problem of content, material, and form in verbal art, So those things that he actually, when you read, you talk about, and you realize that, that, I mean, when you are gifted, because, I mean, the man was gifted because he started to write his book. I mean, yes, even though that he was not equipped and fully baked enough to write it, but he had confidence to do so. So, I mean, when you realize that the person has got that skill of actually deciding, and after he has made a decision, and then just execute his plans and do what he has decided or he has thought of, There's also another part where Mark Twain's he was actually traveling with Mr. Brown. He was traveling with Mr. Brown to California when he was delivering his letters. You must read that part. I am not about to market Mark Twain. I am showing the commonalities between myself and Mark Twain so that you can understand that at some point, to do what you love, to do what you're passionate about, to do what you actually, that it makes a difference in you. If it can make a difference in you, it can make a difference to another person. And you don't need to ask a permission to do that. You just go for it. You just do what you want to do. And you don't feel like as if you are hurting anybody. You just do what you love. And doing what you love is one of the most important parts of life, of most of important activities that we should do, because when you are doing what you love, you don't actually have to ask anyone, because it's get to be delivered to you. I mean, you don't feel as if you are working at some point. You just do what you love doing. So out of those 21 commonalities, one of the most important things that you need to remember is that, as you actually understand, what you are supposed to, what you need to do, it becomes natural. You don't doubt. You don't feel that you have to be apologetic about it. You don't feel that you have to actually please anyone, because it's something that you love. You've got to do it. And when you do it, you've got to do it the way you want to do it. Right? You've got to do it the way that you want to actually understand that it makes you feel free, because you are expressing yourself. And when you are expressing yourself, you don't beg anyone. You just do what you love doing. You just feel as if something has been removed out of your shoulders because you have done something good. Listen to this chapter 1 in the Reverend Trained, in the Reverend Mark Twain, when he said, I was educated, I was trained, and he even mentioned his belief system, not his belief, not his belief system, his denomination under his belief system. I was a Presbyterian. I don't know what changed it. Maybe if I, but I'm not there to actually talk about. I'm actually here to talk about the 21 commonalities between myself and the man. And you look at the other part of the like the twine and the form of belief. And you would talk there about, listening to the preaching about to Edwin how to play the chapel. When you listen to a person that preaches, especially if you are very well dressed to the chapter, and there are many things that will end up disagreeing with the person when he preaches. I mean, that is where I found a little bit common, because I always have that challenge when I listen to people, especially people that are trained, like people that are theologians, and hopefully that have studied and qualified and teach under their profession as theologians. They use their approach, but if you are not a theologian, if you haven't studied, if you haven't done the study of theology, that is the study of the Word of God, and they use their approach, and you use your approach in understanding how to go about maybe understanding that text. As you understand that text, and as the person preaches according to his understanding of the text, and with the Holy Spirit, with the approach that he actually is using as his qualification, it literally makes you to kind of like have some disagreements. I mean, those are your own disagreements. It's not like as if like you're going to do anything. I mean, this is the same thing that Mark Twain happened to be in that position when he was listening to a preacher, which is Edwin Shakir, when he was preaching, when he was listening to him. And I also have that tendency. I don't know how to call it a fallacy, because it's just something that will pop in. When I'm actually listening to some preachers, I would have a tendency of writing. I remember, listening to another preacher who was preaching in my church, and then like he mentioned something that I felt that not that I was critiquing, it was my understanding on that part that was talking about, of which maybe he was right in his point of view, but also I was right in my point of view, because I felt that it's not actually biblically correct, to say it. But I mean, it was just, and I ended up laughing because maybe if I could maybe meet that person after the sermon and say, we talk about it, and ask me how do you feel about that, then I would literally say, at least you shouldn't have said that, because that would be wrong to me. I would be wrong, because you will understand that I was right, because I have to say it, because the way I said it is how it was supposed to be said. But on the other side, I will tell him that no, it was wrong. So there are those things that are so common, between myself and the guy was intelligent. Yeah, the guy was very intelligent. Not that I'm saying that I'm intelligent, but I believe that I can apply my mind, and I believe if I put if I put my mind in something, and I know that something that I put, or perhaps that content that I applied my mind, and I will always get the result, even if somebody else has actually used his or her approach in that regard. So yeah, like the other thing is, one of the things that I love mostly about myself is that I'm confident. I'm confident about myself, and I'm confident even about if I believed on something and have thought about something, and I have actually felt that I needed to stand and talk about that point on that particular, maybe content of that study. And I know when I'm actually standing, I will express myself freely without fear of anyone. That would, if you critique me and you critique me, and I will respect you, but I will still stand. Some people say that they say that you are some would say, oh, that person is stubborn. That child is very stubborn. There's nothing wrong to be stubborn because some people, other person will define you as if you're stubborn, but you yourself will define yourself standing for your point, and you are right in your own making in that point, in that regard. So like calling a person stubborn, it's your point of view, and it doesn't mean that your point of view is always right. That was Mark Twain. Mark Twain will just crack and do whatever that he likes, and he knows that he's confident to say that. Nobody can stop him to say whatever that he wants to say. That's me. So, yeah, 21 commonalities. I've just shared some few. Like, I love to read, I love to listen to other people's views, I love to actually understand other people's point of views. I like to also listen to other people's like a strategy of maybe giving their point of views if they were to be given an opportunity to be in the same position that I would be. I love that to hear. If you were to be in the same position like that person, what would you say as that person is saying that point at that particular time? I love that. Just to understand, if you ask me that question to a person and you look at his emotional projection and as he responds, to that, it's very good. It's mind blowing, and to laugh and to a person has to actually tell the truth because you are literally looking at it. You want to understand how is he or she feeling, how is she feeling about the question that you are posing, and he has to respond, and you're still watching and listening, and maybe give your own judgment on his or her response and all of that. That was Mark Twain. That was Mark Twain doing that. He would actually, sometimes he would stand out and just critique a person that, hey, that's not, that is not so good to say that. It's proper, it's improper. It's not proper, it's improper to say that. And then realize that maybe I wasn't supposed to do it, but I felt like doing it. Yeah, thank you, 21 commonality traits between myself and Mark Twain. Thank you, people. Thank you for your time. I know that some people will critique me, but I just wanted to do this video so that people can just, understand my point of view. That is literally carbon copy to Mark Twain's. Thank you for your time, and please subscribe to all our videos and like them and give us a feedback. Thank you.